I think at this point, most MK fans are aware that something MK related is on the way at some point. Yeah, there hasn't been an announcement trailer or anything, but all you need to do is look up the recent news of a new MK being mentioned over the past month or so, and the extremely vague yet promising tweets by the likes of Ed Boon himself to know that something is on the way. We just don't know how or when for a certainty. That said, it's got me thinking of stuff that I'd really like to see in a new Mortal Kombat. I didn't want to talk about potential mechanics or features because we know that the games drastically change from title to title, don't they? MK9 plays nothing like X, which plays nothing like 11. But one thing that is always a certainty in fighting games is characters. And that's where I've been thinking. Who would I actually want to see return in a new Mortal Kombat? The franchise is rich with potential roster slots, and due to characters like Tremor in Mortal Kombat X, for instance, we know that basically any character could be brought back and reimagined in a way that fits the current fighting game space, and a real possibility for even the most obscure character to become something much more impactful in a gameplay sense. My name is Ketchup, and with 30 years of MK experience under my belt, these are 5 characters that I would absolutely love to see return in a new Mortal Kombat game. As always, if you enjoy this video and any of my other projects, be sure to subscribe and stick around for future content to come. Coming in at number 5 is Chameleon. Chameleon has always been one of my favourite overall characters, regardless of whether we're talking about the male or female version, because the idea of this character is so interesting to me that I can't help myself. Chameleon started as a bonus fighter during the MK Trilogy days. You could do a secret input after selecting any ninja, and at round start, lets you command a character that at seemingly random points will turn into any of the ninja characters just like that, gaining the full moveset of whatever character you've been given. Now, as far as bonus characters go, this was a really fun experience, especially if you know how to play all of the characters. It's kind of like a random select, but more specific to the characters that you love to play. Female Chameleon was exclusive to the N64 version, and even the Wii version of Armageddon, making her truly a Nintendo exclusive fighter, and instead required a cheat menu unlock and was simply playable via character select. A bonus character though, these two would definitely be. It was Armageddon that gave them a bit more identity and expanded the idea of them having a mixture of their own attacks, but can use specific special moves from other characters. This is where the base idea develops for me, as it made both Chameleons extremely fun, because you have specific moves from various characters, but a set of your own fighting style and weapon. It certainly showed that Chameleon is able to be their own fighter here. And with the stuff that we know about modern NRS games, this is something that could be extremely cool to play with. I picture a character who has their own design, potentially a new or reimagined story, but this whole concept of familiar moves remade to fit the Chameleon character. Maybe a reptile slide, but it functions slightly different. A scorpion hellfire, but again, it functions differently. All of these iconic special moves, visually remade, and all that remains is the mechanics of how each special works. All forming together to make Chameleon a character who has gained the many fighting styles of all these warriors, but has changed them around to fit in their own style of gameplay. It would be a cool way to bring Legacy back, or maybe even revisit old special moves that characters no longer have. Possibly, nostalgia getting the best of me here, but Chameleon is such a slept-on character overall that I would love to see what a character like this could do in the modern age. Reiko is a strange one, and somebody that almost divides fans. Some people like him, and some people absolutely hate him. I am one of those that has a fond appreciation of the character, and is one of my favourites to use when I revisit Armageddon or Mortal Kombat 4. He's just really fun to play, and although simple for sure, has some foundations that could totally be built upon for a new game. And let me just explain. Reiko was one of the bigger combo machines in MK4. His flip kick is probably his most memorable attack here, but it gave him tons of options in a game where converting off of stray hits was rather important. He's one of the more remembered characters for using the shuriken projectile, and both of these carried over into Armageddon as well. Now, he did have a few nods to Shao Kahn in Armageddon, and he's always been some kind of general for the forces of evil, whether it was Shao Kahn or even Shinnok. But from a lore perspective, I would love to see what Reiko could be capable of in a future title. We'd seen Reiko's connection with blood magic in the MKX comics, something that you're free to check out yourself, they're right out there, but it gave a whole new direction to the character that we had never seen before, and although is something that did reach a conclusion for Reiko, is an idea that can always be revisited in theory. This storyline gave us a huge connection between Reiko and Havoc, and it felt to me like a breath of fresh air to see two otherwise forgotten characters see such a significant increase in relevance. From a gameplay perspective, I think Reiko has so much room for expansion that it leaves him as a character that could be completely reinvented in modern games. His most notable moves are simple on paper, but could be reimagined with ease, and then you have all of these potential blood magic moves that would transform how he works and what the character is capable of. There's a lot of possibilities here. I would love to see Reiko return, but what the team would do with him is one giant guessing game, if you ask me, and that is an exciting prospect. Funny we should mention Havoc in regards to Reiko, because Havoc is not only in my list of characters I hope return, but I think it's fair to assume a lot of people. You always see folks say that they'd love to see Havoc come back, and trust me, it's perfectly understandable. The character's one of the more memorable from the 3D era, and he has a real sense of character identity, in my opinion. Havoc is a cleric of the Chaos Realm, most memorable from his MK Deception appearance. But he has so many little additions to modern games in the form of the MKX comic, arcade endings and the like, so it feels like only a matter of time until we actually see him again. But he's a character that NetherRealm could completely go to town with when it comes to bringing a modern moveset to life. Known for some outrageous special moves and an incredibly threatening Morning Star weapon, Havoc is completely wild and extremely vicious with what he can do in-game. This character does all sorts of strange stuff to perform his special moves, and with modern visuals that MK titles bring forward, I can only begin to imagine just how bizarre this character could be. Whether he'd be a brawler-style character, someone with intense rushdown, who knows? But as we've seen with other characters that have been brought back into the modern franchise, Havoc is right up there as somebody the community would like to see again. Maybe even more so because, in theory, Havoc's existence would mark a potential return of the Chaos Realm being seen again after so many years, which I'd love to return as well, because when it comes to 3D lore, the Chaos and Order realms are such a memorable part of the whole experience. In another example of a character that is canonically linked to somebody I've already mentioned, it is now time for Hotaru. Whereas Havoc is the embodiment of the Chaos Realm, Hotaru is the embodiment of the Realm of Order. But not in a simple discussion of good versus evil or something. Hotaru is not a good guy either. But Order is the #1 goal, regardless of how it's obtained for this character. And once again, there are so many potential layers that could be added to an expanded MK universe, so from a story perspective, there's tons of potential already there. From a gameplay standpoint, I genuinely feel that this is a chance for MK to have this absolute tower of a man in the roster, covered in armor. And I don't mean mechanical armor where you absorb hits in the game, I mean actual physical armor on his costume, and wielding his famous polearm weapon, which really could become anything. Just a giant weapon and this massive character who could dominate some kind of long range with normals and weapon alone. Hotaru's name is supposedly linked with his lava-style attacks, most notably the attacks he has in Armageddon. As Deception, he was far more limited with only 2 specials to work with. In Armageddon, we got one final look at where the potential in this character lied. Now, according to the wiki, Hotaru's name is Japanese for firefly. This is further enforced by his armor looking similar to that of an insect. It's almost like a carapace or something. The reason I'm mentioning this is because Hotaru's specials are built around light and flame. The lava shot, the mobility special he has, the instant charge punch, all leaving behind magma-like residue. There is visually a major scope for what Hotaru could both look like and play like in a modern engine, and when combined with his absolute authority in the lore, the potential of a much taller and larger character than most, somebody that wields some kind of giant two-handed weapon, all of this works together in a way that, look, when we're talking about older characters brought to new life thanks to modern technology, it is very hard not to instantly think of Hotaru. Of all characters I would love to see return, he very much is right up there. And finally, if you're familiar with my favourite characters at this stage, or if the name Ketchup isn't a massive giveaway, it's Sektor. Like, come on, he's my all-time favourite character, and he had a brief cameo in MK11 as an NPC, but that was that. I just really want to see Sektor come back as a fully fledged character once again. Like, don't get me wrong, his appearance in MK11 was cool, and it is still to this day my favourite visual version of the character. Maybe not so much when he had his strawberries and cream Chronica version, but it was absolutely sick. Not to mention the cool cutscenes he was in, and just a chance for Sektor to get some serious screen time. Now in MKX, Triborg was Triborg. This cyborg character was not the characters that the variation sported, merely a shell of sorts that had the fighting data of the various characters the variations gave you. Yeah, it was cool to see Cyrax, Smoke, Cybersub, and Sektor, but Triborg wasn't actually those characters, so it almost felt like a bonus appearance that masterfully capitalized on what variations of MKX would allow you to do. It just made sense. But I believe that it is long overdue that a cyborg returns to Mortal Kombat with serious effect. With the varied and expanded moves, the modern visuals which continue to be really impressive, and maybe at last an expanded look at where a cyborg fighter fits into the modern universe. I wasn't really a fan of how Sektor kind of just served Chronica along almost every other villain, and although, to be fair, Frost was a cyborg in MK11, it kind of felt the same way. The Takunin in the 3D era was so important to the time frame of Mortal Kombat, and I just can't help but think of the modern possibilities. The Cyberling Quay were cool in MK11 as well, don't get me wrong, but I just really want to see them have more of an identity in whatever MK comes next. In regards to which cyborg, truthfully, I would be happy with any of them, and in a perfect world, we'd have Cyrax and Sektor together, as even back in the 3D games when I was really young, having one of the Borgs present without the other just doesn't feel right. But if there's a choice of just one, it has to be Sektor for me, as he embodies everything I love about a fighting game character. Fun setup potential, a strong but importantly varied projectile game. I was never a huge fan of characters that zone out with just one attack. Sektor had straight missiles, up missiles, homing missiles, and the flame burner for crying out loud. You had to be aware of every range that you were in to make Sektor flourish, especially in MK9. A real style factor with sick combos, a reactionary teleport that rewarded those that had the reactions to pull it off. Sektor is and always will be my favourite character, and I will always hope to see him again in the next title, and that is no exception here. And there we have it, 5 characters that I personally would love to see in a future Mortal Kombat. I feel like so many people are going to disagree with this and have their own set of characters, and for a discussion like this, that is fine. I encourage it. Let me know, and I'm fairly certain we're going to have some rather different results in the comments section, won't we? So thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay tuned, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.